morning. So the FCA and PSR were observers on the contingent reimbursement model steering board, and the CRM has set out the circumstances when the victim of APP, sorry about all the acronyms, scams would get their money back, and from whom, with a practitioner guide to follow. What do you believe the CRM will mean for victims of APP fraud? Perhaps you can start.
So I can apologise, we probably created many of those acronyms in the first place. I think, I mean, at the simplest level, I think this is this really is a step change in the protection available for consumers in respect of that authorised fraud. So there's been existing processes and rights for unauthorised payment fraud, but it's that authorised bit that changed. And I think again, from a consumer's perspective, what they will see when under that code is that they can contact their bank, as they do now. There is a deadline when the case needs to be considered, and if they've met the if they've acted reasonably, they will get their money back. That is, at one level, it is that simple, and then the banks need to.
What are your views on the fact that it's voluntary, and the view that some hold that it will reduce its impact? And how many banks are you? Do you have a list of the ones that haven't joined where they're likely to? What are you doing in the current state, given it's voluntary, to try and encourage them, shall we say?
So I think in terms of the voluntary nature of it, I think what the group started their work in April and have delivered a code in February, which is now being implemented. So I think that voluntary approach has actually meant that this issue has been taken forward at a reasonable speed, actually, I think. So we can, I think that, put on my record, my thanks for all those that have been involved in that, the consumer groups, the banks that have participated. So I think that has been speed. I think the other aspect of your question is, yes, well what next? We've had the commitment from 7 to sign up from day one. I do hope there will be more, and
in the pipeline that are planning to join, and what are you going to do to make, encourage them? I would say because we're going to come on to that about regulation. But at this stage, what are you saying to them? Either are you saying join, or regulation might follow? Where's, I guess I'm getting at the carrot. At the moment, it's carrots. Is there a stick behind this to try and encourage them to join?
So we absolutely want other institutions to join. So we are encouraging them to do that more in that, in the sort of carrot mode. We think these are important protections. I think it's also
mode, and what I don't actually like carrots, but anyway, what's the kind of time frame in your view of where you'd like to get to? Obviously, if it can be done in this way, fine, but there are some issues about the effectiveness of a voluntary code.
Of course, and on the 28th of May, the code will go live, and we hope that more will choose to sign up. It's also worth saying that the code is very explicit that it doesn't stop anyone going further, and we've also seen other institutions that have taken steps to protect their customers. So TSB, for example, has under its sort of fraud guarantee, has chosen to take action. So I think that's quite a lot of progress, but more is needed, and I think part of this is being clear about the protections that are available for consumers, and the fact that the institutions that have chosen to sign up to the code, or that have provided other forms of guarantee, have a different proposition to their customers. They are offering greater levels of protection.
But we are very concerned about the ones who are not part of this code. So my question is, what are we doing about them? Because there are still cases where the point about negligence, for instance, some banks are reported to basically accuse their customers in these situations of negligence. And if they're marking their own homework, how are you confident that our constituents are being protected in those situations? This is the frustration with the FCA not actually using the stick, perhaps. And how long do we have to wait before more banks join in? And it's, Colin made the point about the tension between technology and the advances of technology, which are useful, but the risk management doesn't seem to happen fast enough as far as our constituents are concerned. Perhaps others can come in as well.
I was going to say, if you can come in.
Well, it's just on the stick. I mean, we can't force banks to join up to the code, but because it's voluntary.
But you're the regulator.
But what we can't, we don't have that power.
Yeah, I'm asking a question about whether it should be, it should be.
Well, that would require legislation.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
We're parliamentarians. We'd like to know what's the steer to us about a time frame by which we should be looking to push for potentially for legislation. What's your view on that? Because we've gone round in circles with some of these debates. So this is an opportunity for you to tell us, because otherwise what happens is that we kind of spend quite a lot of time. It's great the banks that have joined, but gratitude to banks who failed to protect our customers is not really enough. So what's the answer?
So I think what we have in front of us is that we've got the TSB making steps, the code being implemented in 2 weeks' time. I think that is a good timely response. I think if we don't see further progress on mitigating fraud and also over time more people signing up to these standards, and as they become established as just industry best practice, we'd hope that the financial ombudsman would increasingly see these as just the standards that need to be applied in any event. So I think we can be monitoring how the code works, the impact it's having, and the number of parties that sign up. But then, of course, we will continue to work with government, and if legislation is the only way to plug the gap, then we'll of course be talking to government about how to take that forward.
Okay, thank you. Just in terms of time frame, then, just on this, do you see that being a year or two within which you will stick to the voluntary code and see how that progresses? Is it 1 year? Is it 2 years? What's the stage at which you start saying to government, actually, we've taken this as far as we can with the voluntary nature of it, but actually these things need to happen? Is it in a year's time or 2 years?
I think the first thing to say is that we are, so the Lending Standards Board has a role to monitor the code implementation, and we will be monitoring how it goes. If we don't see that there is progress being made on these frauds, then we'll act quicker. So I wouldn't like to say we're not going away and then coming back in a year to check. We're keeping a very close eye on this.
It's time to look at how progress is being made, so that you can draw some conclusions and we can benefit from that, perhaps.
We report annually anyway. I guess what I'm saying is we'll be keeping it under review much more closely.
Brilliant.